Kings need to be confident as well. One game, win or go home tomorrow, playing seeds 9 versus 10. Oh, man, a lot of anticipation for this one tomorrow. We told you that we're going to visit with John Dickinson. We got him all set, Simone. John Dickinson now joining us from the Bay Area, of course, longtime host here and reporter here, now doing the same in the Bay Area, currently with KNBR. JD, John Dickinson, joining us here on Sactown Sports. Well, John, here we are again. The same two teams, this time a little different. Instead of a series of a win or go home, what are your thoughts on the early matchup here tomorrow, 9 versus 10?
Yeah, here we are again. I think, both teams not necessarily wanting to be in this game. I think both teams had higher expectations for both of their seasons. And the Warriors, I think, come into this thing pretty confident, as you mentioned, just given the fact that really their season turned shortly after the last time that the Warriors and Kings played. They played back in January, on the 25th of January at Chase Center. The Kings won that game by a point. And then the Warriors lost the next game to the Lakers in double overtime by a point at Chase Center. They were 19-24. They were at their low point of the season, but since then they've gone 27-12. And it was right there 2 games after the last time they played. And it's just so different. The Warriors are a completely different team. I think the Kings in many ways are a completely different team. For better or worse, I mean, kind of to be determined. I know they've seemingly lost a lot of close games that they had been winning, and injuries are a part of that for Sacramento. But yeah, I think the Warriors are as confident that they can, not only win tomorrow in Sacramento, but maybe win a couple of games. And now with Oklahoma City as the 1 seed, It seems like they're the 1 seed that everybody would want to face if you wind up making it through the week. But surviving the week, I think is the most difficult part for all of these teams that are going to be playing tomorrow.
I agree completely. You and I kind of shared that text yesterday as well. Like, I think for the Kings or the Warriors, if they, the winner tomorrow, and if they somehow get through Friday, I think the path of the Thunder is ideal, much more so than getting Denver. But that's probably a later conversation. As far as your first point, John, on the Warriors being kind of that turning point, much better since that last game against the Kings. Why? What changed the most in kind of this revamped looking Warriors team? Yeah,
well, Draymond Green coming back was part of it. Draymond had just come back before the Warriors and Kings last matchup. And then they had the tragic passing of assistant coach Dejan Milojevic right on January 17th, the week before that game when they were in Salt Lake City at a team dinner. And, they had the week obviously off to grieve. And that Kings game was the second game back after all of that. And I think they just kind of rallied. I don't want to say around that, but Draymond coming back at that point, it was really when Draymond got into the flow off of the suspension again. And they started playing much better defensively. They fixed some things as far as, Klay Thompson really struggled to begin the season. Andrew Wiggins really struggled to begin the season. I think Wiggins has played a lot better, although not up to expectations in the Bay for the full season. Klay started to come around when Steve Kerr moved him to the bench right before the All-Star break. That move was still forthcoming a couple of weeks after this run sort of started. And then the other part, and the Warriors the Kings saw this rather in that game, was Jonathan Kuminga. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of a question mark because he's been a little bit banged up. He's missed some games the last couple of weeks with knee tendonitis in both knees. And then that got cleared up. And then he fell in the game in Portland on his tailbone a couple of nights ago on Thursday, missed the Friday game against the Pelicans. Steve Kerr wanted to get him a run yesterday, and he played about 20 plus minutes, but didn't score, which is odd because the one thing Kuminga does in that practice game is what it became yesterday for the Warriors, with the Lakers and Kings obviously sealing the Warriors' fate by both winning. And yeah, he didn't score and looked uncomfortable and out of sorts. He's been moved to the bench after being in the starting lineup for Trace Jackson-Davis, the rookie center, which has also solidified the Warriors' defense a little bit more than it even had been before here over the last couple of weeks. But Kuminga really came on and was a big part of that 27-12 with rim pressure and just the ability to attack and get to the basket and score in the paint. in different ways than the Warriors are used to being able to score. So he kind of was a game changer for them offensively, him and Draymond starting on that front line. But if I had to, it sounds like it's going to be Trayce Jackson-Davis and Draymond that are going to be the starters. So even that is a little bit different from what had been mostly the norm over the course of the last couple of months for the Warriors.
Yeah, so that to me is a fascinating storyline here, at least for tomorrow. I think one of the things everybody was excited about last year in that 7-game series was, to see how the Kings handle it. And I think, getting out to a 2-0 series lead, Warriors win the next 3. I thought it would be over in 6, and then the Kings won that game. And we know how it all went down in 7 with Steph being fantastic in that 7th game. But kind of a hero for the Warriors in that series, John, was Kevon Looney. And he was so great, so important. He really defended well. And he still plays, but not the same amount. And if they're going Draymond and or Trayce Jackson-Davis, how do you think, or will Looney be a guy that we see some tomorrow against Sabonis?
Well, it's interesting because you asked me what changed. Well, part of what changed, and it was down the list among maybe some of those other things that I mentioned, but Kevon Looney basically was taken out of the rotation in favor of Draymond at center with Kuminga, and then as time went on, Trayce Jackson-Davis at center with Draymond playing the 4. And yeah, Looney basically been out of the rotation until about a week ago. Really struggled throughout the course of this season, was just not successful in ways that he had been defensively and rebounding. He was the Warriors' second best player in that series last year against the Kings. It was Steph and obviously the game 7, and there were some big shots here and there from other players, but Looney with the rebounding, Looney with the defense on Sabonis. The Warriors really were able to, I know Sabonis got his numbers, and that was kind of a bone of contention in Sacramento was, well, Sabonis actually had a pretty good series. He really didn't have a good series by his standards and by efficiency levels and by flow of the way that the Kings get everybody else involved. Sabonis does his thing, but he gets everybody else involved as well. And so the Warriors, I do think part of their focus has been try to take him away because he is the guy that connects the others, not named De'Aaron Fox. He works with Fox too, but Fox is kind of his own animal. And so Looney has been a huge part of that along with Draymond. I think Trayce Jackson-Davis, as I said, is probably going to start. But the one thing we know about Steve Kerr in playoff games and elimination games, he's a lot like Bruce Bochy with the Giants, where if you don't have it, you might just be done, especially if you're a young player. The Kings really exposed Kuminga last year in that series. Kuminga was playing really well coming into that series. And by game 4, Steve Kerr was like, I can't play him anymore in this series. And, that was part of the reason why I think, the Warriors ended up being able to eke it out was Kerr was unafraid. By that same standard, he's not afraid to go to somebody that maybe hasn't been playing. He did that a little bit with Moses Moody in that series, and Moody actually played well against the Kings in Kuminga's slot in that one. So to answer your question about Looney, I think Trayce Jackson-Davis starts. He really has solidified their defense. He's allowed Draymond Green to roam more and be able to help in other positions and basically be kind of the free safety that tells everybody else where to be defensively, because Trayce Jackson-Davis is back there clogging things and rebounding and blocking some shots. But I would not be surprised, and I said this on my show yesterday after the Warriors game, you really don't know what to expect. And I think that's, the Warriors are pretty dependent on Trayce Jackson-Davis. They're also pretty dependent on Brandon Podziemski, another rookie who does a lot of things. And you just don't know with rookies who are basically being thrown right into a game 7. Now, Podziemski and TJD are pretty poised. They play beyond their years on the court in terms of rookies, but they're still rookies. And, I said yesterday, it wouldn't surprise me if Sabonis got 2 fouls on Trayce Jackson-Davis in the first 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Steve Kerr's tapping Kevon Looney on the shoulder when maybe he wasn't on the original plan to play. And, he's in the game going up against a familiar opponent. I do think Sabonis played better against Looney and against the Warriors in the matchups this season as they went on, which is something also to keep an eye on after the Warriors had really kind of stymied him.
Yeah, and so, you obviously cover the Warriors, talk about the Warriors, watch all their games, but for those that don't know, John, you do the same really for the Kings. You know all their games, their strengths, their weaknesses. So this is kind of a question in the sense that Kings map, a roadmap, how do they win tomorrow? Because you know what the Warriors' weaknesses are as much as the Kings. Warriors come in as Looks like 2.5-point favorites. There's some history there, some respect for the way they're playing right now, and some injuries for the Kings. So how would Sacramento get out of there with a W and a lighting of the beam tomorrow?
Well, the one thing for the Warriors, as well as they've played and as comfortable as they've been on the road, I think that's part of the Warriors' confidence level. 25-16 on the road versus 21-20 at home. They're comfortable playing in Sacramento, winning some big games. They've lost some too, some close ones. I mean, every one of them have gone down to the wire. But I think for the Warriors, it's interesting because every time it's looked like they were really going to turn their season around. And they did to a certain extent to get to 46 wins. But every time it looked like they were really going to get on a run that might be special, they just have an awful loss. They'd blow a lead or, they would just, kind of have a no-show kind of a game. I don't think that happens tomorrow. But to answer your question more directly, I think Fox has to be really aggressive early. There's a lot of games where Fox, I think, not floats, but he just kind of lets the Kings get into their offense and get everybody involved. And, Sabonis does his thing. They're getting Keegan Murray going. They're taking open threes. I think Fox has to look to be the guy that at times has dominated the Warriors by trying to get into the paint early and just look to score a lot early. I think the Kings are going to have to make threes. I think they might need to make 20 and, they've had some hot games. I think the Kings were the only team this year to beat. Actually, there was one other game, and I can't remember. There were two times the Warriors lost a game where they made 23s, and the Kings were one of the games that the Warriors lost when they made 23. So I think they've got to make threes. I think they got to mix up the looks against Steph too. I think Keon Ellis is interesting. He while Malik Monk has probably been the Kings' second best player against the Warriors, which, not having him definitely hurts. They have been a little better and different defensively in the time where Monk and Herter have been out. So I think different looks, whether it's Mitchell, whether it's trapping, the game where the Kings came back and beat the Warriors in November, the Warriors looked like they'd never seen a trap before. At the end of the game, they turned it over 2 times in the final minute on just basic traps. Mixing that up, I think is a big part of that, whether it ends up being Mitchell or Keon Ellis or whoever it is that's on Steph. But I think they're going to have to play a really efficient offensive game. And I think they're going to have to hope, and look, their defense has a part of it, but I think they're going to have to hope that Wiggins has one of his 2 for 8, 6 points, and where is he? Did he play at the end of the night? And you're going to have to hope maybe that Klay Thompson, and this has happened a lot for as well as he's played, Klay Thompson might just have a 5 for 17. Right. And when that happens, the Warriors really, really struggle to find, they just don't know on a night-to-night basis who the secondary scorer is going to be. A lot of the time it's been Kuminga, but they really don't know night to night. And they've been able to find somebody, but on the nights where they don't find that second, they really have found themselves in trouble. And the other thing I would just say, short and sweet, both these teams, no lead is safe. They both blow leads. Yes. They both blow leads. And I know people think the Warriors don't. The Warriors blow leads. And, they have all year. I know the Kings, that's been an issue lately with some games that could have kept them out of the 9-10, even though they have been shorthanded. But, both of these teams blow leads, and it's never over. And so I think that also adds a little bit of, if one team gets up by 12 with 8 minutes to go, I think the other team's still going to be a little nervous.
Yeah, for sure, as they should. You're right. That's shown even in this series. The Kings came from 24 down earlier in November to beat them. So it's going to be fun tomorrow, John. We appreciate your insight. I know we'll see you out there tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yep, thanks for having me, Jason.
You got it. Thank you. That's John Dickinson again, doing great work down there in the Bay Area, has for years. It used to be here at Sports 1140 as well back then. Now we're Sactown Sports, but JD covers all these things. He is everywhere, and we appreciate his insight on that. All right, Frankie Cardicelli joins us at 9. When we come back,